continuous monitoring sample. It is a continuous sample.
Is actually taken weekly once per month. We studied at average value taken.
Now, is it a flow composite sample, or it is a your characteristics quality composite sample, or is it a statistically interfered and or not? You have just taken few data and you have taken the average one. And I feel personally, I do not know the place of Tirumala, but I have doubt about the BOD value in the inlet, that is 250. 250 we normally consider as a design purpose, but while you are monitoring this data, I think 250 milligrams per liter value should not come it. Either it will be slightly more or it would be less. Normally it is less. I do not know it is a seaward area or not, how much percentage of sewerage system is there or not. And you have not given any data, since it is a domestic wastewater, you have not given any information on MPN content or bacterial content, pathogen content. That is very important now. So pathogen content value you have not given. And you see the BOD and COD values, that is about 0.8, okay. Yes. But when it is coming as a effluent, it is not coming as a 0.8. How it is possible? And what is the reason behind it? When it is add, also you are not giving the details of the treatment plant. While you are showing the treatment plant, looks like oxidation ditch or extended aeration or some kind of activated sludge plant, if I consider it, then how the return sludge is being made, how the sludge management is they are doing, all this information are not given. What is the MLVSS in your aeration tank, and what are the different unit size provided at that particular place, that so I do not know whether you have just taken few samples from the influent and from the outlet also. Ammonia, nitrogen, you have not mentioned anything, how much ammonia, nitrogen is there in the influent and how it is going for nitrification. Denitrification, I do not know whether it's a denitrification is taking place or not, because no such anoxic condition is maintained there. And all these things are very much limited in your study. All these things should have been there.
Yes, actually that design part also we did, but as for this presentation is concerned, only 10 minutes is there, so that's why I did not.
No, basic information you should have been given. You see, protection rules 89, that is the old, that is one aspect. And second aspect is, you see that for BOD and COD and all these things, balancing, material balance has not been made. Statistical data is not there. One or two data, you cannot predict anything. You cannot give any kind of inference on that. Your discussion should not come with one or two. How many samples? What is the population size? What is the average one? What is the standard deviation? All these things you have not given when you are monitoring a treatment plant wastewater character. This thing must be included. Okay.
Yes, sir. It's
and also you are not giving anything, any data on pathogen content. That is very, very important nowadays.
Given. So actually it is for a population of about 10,000. Actually, the total Tirumala has 4 treatment plants. It is actually present at Srivari Mettu. So block A. So this one is concerned with block A, and the other treatment plants also there at different areas in order to treat the wastewater, whatever that is originating from that particular location. For example, block D at Annadanam Shatram. So like that it was there, sir.
Whatever it may be, maybe it is meant for one block or small area. How much is the flow?
0.5 mld, sir.
5 mld. Okay. So in the 5 mld you have given, but they have given, actually they have provided activated sludge process, is it not?
Yes, sir.
Now, how the activated sludge process they are maintaining, that thing is, it is not there. So whether it is going well or not, how you can tell? Only by performing 2 parameters or by only few samples. This is very much limited study, and you should, because you see you are presenting in one international conference, so that must be included, all these things. Okay.
Actually, it was there, sir, but
no. I do not agree all these things. I do not, because you are a professor, you are also a faculty member of an university, and you should also tell in this way. You should also provide, or you should present in the other manner, so that everybody can understand. Okay,
The
okay
next
then,
time I will
because
include. Nothing to worry, sir. Thank you, sir.
Acha, Madam Kafle, should we go to the next presenter then?
Yes, please. Yes.
So I request the next presenter to come, and then I request the next presenter also at the same time that try to maintain the time within 10 minutes, and he or she should present the main work, main objective of the work, and what is the newness of his or her work, or what is the motivation, and then finally how he or she has conducted the study, resultant discussions, and then finally concluding remarks. Okay. Your slide, I think, should be limited
Thank you,
within,
sir.
say, 20, not more than 20. Who is here to present the next?
Now, sir, it is from organizing section. We are announcing the name of Prosenjit Ghosh, paper number AB91.
Okay, okay.
He is going to
Prosenjit Ghosh.
present the next presentation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, at the outset, I should say, Mr. Prosenjit Ghosh, that I feel that he has no other engagement in other hall.
No, sir.
Okay.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. Sir, I am only presenting one topic, sir, here in the conference. Yes, sir.
But I should, what is your presentation? Are you presenting?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will be presenting.
Okay.
Sir.
Okay, you present.
Okay, sir. Sir, I am just turning on my camera and then
Okay.
my sharing screen. Sir, can you see my slide?
Yes, I can see.
Okay, sir. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to my presentation. So the topic of my presentation is biodegradation of fluorine, carbazole, dibenzothiophene, and various indigenous polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons and heterocyclics in refinery wastewater, and development of methods for their identification and quantification using various advanced techniques. So basically, this is a part of my research work that was conducted at Environmental Science and Engineering Department at IIT Bombay under the supervision of Professor Suparna Mukherjee. And currently, I'm a faculty member at the Department of Civil Engineering at NIT Tiruchirappalli. So these are the contents of my presentation. Directly coming to the introduction. So it is a well-known thing that this crude oil refining process generates a lot of wastewater, which is estimated to be about 0.4 to 1.6 times the volume of the crude oil processed, and it has been estimated that about 66 billion billion.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Your screen is not visible to us, sir.
Screen is not visible. I have made it in full screen.
No, actually, it is
It is-
visible to me.
No, sir.
It is
showing
also
your
it is also
profile
visible to
picture.
me.
So
Maybe something some
on
net.
your end maybe, because I can see it.
Yes, I can also see.
Okay, yeah. Yes,
Should I,
yes, sir. It is visible now.
should I
Please
continue?
go ahead.
Okay, so it produces a lot of wastewater, and it has been found that around 66 billion cubic meters of wastewater has been produced in 2010 because of this refining process, and it has been estimated that around 5.34 million meter cube per day of wastewater is generated globally as per 2011. So this process of refining includes these processes: desalting, distillation, hydrotreating, and cooking. And cooling systems, which generates a lot of wastewater containing various compounds like phenolics, creosols, polymeric substances, long chain hydrocarbons, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, heterocyclics, and heavy metals. So most of these compounds that are generated due to this oil refining are mostly toxic, mutagenic, and some of the compounds have been reported to be carcinogenic even. So under this classification, I have focused my research on particular heterocyclic polynuclear aromatic hydrocarbons, which are classified further under three subgroups: nitrogen, sulfur, and oxygen heterocyclics. So under nitrogen heterocyclics, these are basically polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons having nitrogen present as the heteroatom, and these are some structures of these compounds. These are classified under sulfur heterocyclics having sulfur as heteroatom, and these are oxygen heterocyclics having oxygen as heteroatom. So this some of these compounds I have chosen to study their degradation is in refinery wastewater when they are added externally. So out of this, carbazole, fluorine, and dimethyl abbreviated as CBZ, FLU, and DBT. So these compounds have been well reported for their toxicity and even carcinogenicity. Out of this, fluorine has been reported by US EPA, and it is under the priority pH list for US EPA. So these compounds have been detected in cooking wastewater ranging from even very less ppb level, say about 0.01, 0.18 ppb to about 12.5 ppm in various cooking wastewater. So regarding the treatment of this wastewater, it has been found that although physicochemical treatment is efficient, but this does not completely mineralize these compounds. However, bioremediation has been found to be an economical option, also satisfying the objective of mineralization of these compounds. So in the present study, I have conducted biodegradation experiments using a efficient bacterial strain Pseudomonas aeruginosa, which was earlier found to degrade all these compounds when applied separately in individual systems in mineral media. So these compounds have been added externally in the refinery wastewater, and their degradation using this bacterial strain has been investigated, along with the degradation of indigenously present heterocyclics and other compounds. So basically, these are the objectives. First objective is actually surrounded around the development of the methods for detecting these compounds, fluorine, dibenzapine, carbazole, and various other compounds using HPLC, GCFID, and two-dimensional GCSD of MS. And the second objective is surrounded around the biodegradation experiments, wherein I have performed degradation of these three compounds, carbazole, fluorine, and dibenzapine, when added externally in presence of the degrading bacterial strains Pseudomonas aeruginosa in refinery wastewater. And in the other set, I have conducted degradation of these compounds which are indigenously present in the wastewater in presence of the bacterial strain. So these are the structures of these compounds. This is for carbazole, this is fluorine, and this is dimethyl. This is the bacterial strain that I use, Pseudomonas aeruginosa RS1, and this is the details of the isolation, the strain number, and the uniqueness of the bacterial strain. So first I had developed the method for quantifying these compounds using HPLC, wherein I use this method that is on the right hand top corner. And this is one of the typical chromatogram which contains a peak, a isolated peak of 9 compounds which are added simultaneously starting from pyridine, thiophene, quinoline, carbazole, benzothiophene, naphthalene, fluorine, dibenzothiophene. So these compounds have been isolated, and also benzene using this procedure, and this is the specific method development parameter for 3 compounds that I studied here. These are carbazole, fluorine, and dibenzothiophene. So these are the LOD and LOP for these compounds. So we can see the LOD and LOP were it was good. So I opted this procedure for further assessment. And then I used another method, GCFID. So that is the, this chromatogram is representing the analysis of this mixture of carbazole, fluorine, and dibenzothiophene and their corresponding peaks. So, however, the LOD and LOP value that if you see on the struggle on the right hand side, the bottom corner, these values are high. So that is why I did not adopt this procedure. And another method, that is two-dimensional GCSD of MS, that I had done for quantifying various indigenously present heterocyclics and polycyclic aromatic compounds. And this is a typical chromatogram of 9 different compounds, the same one that I used for the HPLC method development. And these are the various compounds when they were eluted, starting from the first ring, 1 ring compounds, and then 2 and 3 ring compounds, and their corresponding retention times in this graph. And this is the typical method that I used. So this is the way how I actually taken the sample from the refinery in Mumbai. So this was collected from the equalization tank, and then first the various physicochemical parameters were then assessed as mentioned in the left. And after that, the degradation studies were conducted. In one set of the degradation experiment, I had conducted degradation of this fluorine, dibenzothiophene, and carbazole when added externally in the refinery wastewater, along with acclimatized bacterial strain Pseudomonas aeruginosa, and the degradation was monitored using HPLC. And in another degradation experiment, I had conducted degradation of the indigenously present pH and heterocyclics, and the degradation was monitored using TOC and 2-dimensional GC of MS. So now coming to the some of the results. So this is a typical characteristic that I had observed for the refinery wastewater that I had collected. So BOD is about 75 plus minus 8, and total CED is around 330 plus minus 6 ppm. So these are the some of the compounds that were identified, which are actually indigenously present: sulfur, nitrogen, and oxygen heterocyclics, and some of the pHs. These were detected using GC of MS. So this is a typical degradation profile when carbazole was added externally. So here the first graph, the first red one, this red dotted line is showing the degradation profile of carbazole when added at 100 mg per liter, but there was no supplementation of mineral media. And the blue one is for when the optimized mineral media was unoptimized mineral media was supplemented. So in the lab, I had also studied separately for optimizing the media composition for degradation of carbazole. So this was under unoptimized media supplementation, and the green dotted line is showing the degradation profile under optimized media supplementation. So you can see on the right-hand side table that the degradation increased from 27% when only refinery wastewater was given, and when the media supplementation was given, then it increased from 27 to 83%. And in presence of the wastewater, it was increased from 27 to 54%. So basically, these two last row values are actually in the mineral media. Similarly, for fluorine, it increased from 20 to 50%, and for dibenzothiophene, it increased from 24 to 47% after 14 days of degradation. So this study was also conducted in ternary mixtures containing these compounds at 30 ppm of total concentration and also 300
Excuse
ppm
me,
of total
sir.
concentration.
You
Yes, yes.
you have 2 minutes to conclude.
Okay, thank you. So this is the result for the degradation after 14 days that was observed for individual carbazole, fluorine, and dibenzothiophene in the ternary mixture for 30 ppm and 300 ppm total concentration. So it can be seen that the degradation was much higher as expected in the low concentration range. However, when they were applied in high concentration, there was some inhibition due to which there was less degradation. And this slide shows the degradation of various indigenously present compounds as summarized here in this graph on the left hand side. And these are the various compounds starting from 1M, 1HY. So that is 1-methylene, 1H-indene, and the respective ones are mentioned here. So it was found that as the culture was acclimatized to various substrates like carbazole, fluorine, and dibenzothiophene, and also mixture of these compounds, it showed different capability of degrading these compounds. And this is the TOC profile, which shows the reduction of TOC over time. So the various bars are actually showing the reduction of the TOC profile when various acclimatized cultures were provided. So the blue one shows when the control is considered. This one, the next one is for the carbazole acclimatized culture. The green one shows when fluorine acclimatized culture was provided, and this regarding the dibenzothiophene acclimatized culture, and the last one, yellow one, is for the mixture acclimatized culture. So under these conditions, what is the reduction of TOC? It has been shown here. So the mixture acclimatized culture basically showed the maximum TOC removal. So finally concluding my presentation, so it needs to be, we need to provide some additional supplementation of nutrient so that we can enhance the degradation of the various refinery components in the refinery wastewater in presence of acclimatized bacterial strain. So both these components are necessary. So biostimulation and bioaugmentation both plays a major role in degrading these compounds. So here in this study, various pHs and heterocyclics could be degraded, and the TOC removal was also observed after 14 days. And however, when the concentration for individual compounds were increased more than 100 ppm, there was a significant reduction in the removal. And this bacterial strain that I used actually showed some potential for degrading various compounds in presence of this refinery wastewater, so it can have some application in the field. So these are the corresponding references for my study. Regarding acknowledgement, I would like to acknowledge SAI, SAP IIT Bombay for providing these facilities and partial funding from IRCC IIT Bombay. So thanking you for patience to listen my presentation. Yes, sir. I'm done, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Prosenjit.
Thank you, sir.
It's a very good topics, I should say, because of the all kind of recalcitrant compounds as well as slowly biodegradable compounds, priority compounds, they are being now removed by a single strain. It is a very amazing features. So that is your, I think, the very good findings, new findings, I should say. But one thing I would like to say,
Yes.
you have not mentioned what was your oil concentration in the wastewater.
Yes, sir.
What was your oil concentration?
Yes, sir.
Free oil or say emulsified, whatever the form may be, what was your oil concentration and what type of oil? I think it is a mineral oil, definitely.
Yes, sir.
And how much sulfide is also there in your wastewater? Sulfide, sulfate, furfural, all these things are also coming when there is an extraction procedure. Nothing is mentioned there. So how we can understand only the priority pollutants, some of the phenol derivatives, or say some kind of pH only is there, because the other things are also there, and how it has been tackled by the bacteria. What are the nutrients you have provided? What is your growth character curve? And what was your case value, concentration wise, your limiting growth studies, substrate removal studies, all these things are not mentioned. All
Yes,
these things have not shown. So I think this is an incomplete information from my side, I should say.
Yes, sir.
And also I would like to request the others if they can ask one or two questions. I think it will be better. I am just giving because the time is clicking away. I would only say that this result is not complete one because you have not given other information. Growth study should be given with your definitely either your inhibition kinetic studies or say normal monode studies. These kind of things should be presented. Otherwise, we cannot assess your work. Okay. And what are the different biokinetic parameters? It is, and you have not given the theory behind it, that how this all kind of organic, normally non-biodegradable organics are being removed by a single strain.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It is a pseudomonas group. Okay.
Yes,
Then
yes.
what type of group it is? What is its character? Is it an aerobic? Is it an anaerobic? Is it anoxic or a facultative anaerobes? Nothing you have mentioned. So how we can understand that these things are being merrily happening?
Yes, sir. Yes, some of the details I have, very few.
No. I have not got it. I am not getting. Yeah, I got it in your. I did not get it. I do not know whether others have been. They have observed or they have any kind of observations or not. Whether they have noted all these things or not. But Madam Kapli.
Yes, I actually have a number of points. First and
Yes, ma'am.
foremost is that carbazole is not soluble in water.
Yes,
So when you are seeing that it is getting biodegraded in a medium, mostly it means that your carbazole is just not in the medium where your strain is growing. So how it is interacting with the substrate to biodegrade.
Ma'am,
Second, I have not seen, of course, in 10 minutes you cannot present
ma'am.
all that details, but extraction protocols are extremely important. So what was your controls, where did you keep any control where
Yes,
you
ma'am.
extract just without any bacterial inoculation
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
and check on
Yes,
that?
ma'am.
So carbazole,
Ma'am.
why are you putting it as how are you introducing it in that water? It
Yes,
has,
ma'am. Yeah. So,
Tell
ma'am,
me.
actually, yeah. So, carbazole is having low solubility. It is about very few, 1.8 ppm around, at about 25 degrees centigrade. So although the solubility is low, but in actual wastewater systems, it can be present significant concentration due to its association with other particulate molecules, etc. So in the typical wastewater that I found, it has low concentration, but this carbazole, madam, I have also conducted separate experiments on degradation kinetics and growth kinetics of this carbazole in mineral media. That means there is no refinery wastewater or something like that. So only in mineral
Also,
media.
Prasanjit, having one isolate that is biodegrading three diversely different compounds is actually, I'm not at all sure that it is feasible. For
Yes, ma'am.
you to present that, you have to do individual growth of these compounds before you put it into the mixture, and you have to show in different stages. You have shown in GCMS and all, and you have made one plot, of
Yes, ma'am.
residual amount. That's not enough. You have to show if it is being actually biodegraded, then what are the different intermediates that are being formed on your
Yes, yes, yes.
it has to
That
come.
actually I'd
It
like
wasn't
to
there.
That is not
ask.
actually presented, ma'am, in the slide because due to the limitation. I have conducted
No, but that is
separate.
the most important, because now we don't know whether really this your extraction protocol only is, showing you that kind of a reduction, or your strain is actually doing something. And one strain for three different compounds, I have not heard of,
Yes, ma'am.
and
Ma'am, that
not for
study
such
has been.
complex multi-ring aromatics.
Ma'am, that study has
Hmm.
been separately conducted earlier, meaning separate from the study that bacterial strain can degrade these compounds, carbazole fluid and ionic thiophene separately,
So until
and
we
also
see
in
the
mixture.
kinetics, yeah, this see.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That is actually for this
And
part.
sulfur compounds are extremely different.
Yes,
The ring opening is extremely, totally a different pathway from the
yes,
nitrogen compounds.
yes, yes,
And your other one too has no substitute also. So
yes,
it's really difficult to believe that possible there is some biodegradation,
yes, ma'am.
biotransformation happening,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
this the three ring structure is similar.
Yes,
There could be some biotransformation happening,
yes,
but
ma'am. That
you
study
need to
was.
map out the intermediates. Until then you
Yeah.
cannot say that this is biodegradation.
Now, actually, for this carbazole, I have already done for the metabolite studies. So that was actually done in a separate set of study that is I am not presented here. But in presence of this refinery wastewater, I mean, I thought of doing this metabolite studies, but first actually I had to do a lot of other studies to get rid of the background compounds that are there in the refinery wastewater. So that is very challenging. So meaning. That actually, yeah, as you said, this could be a uh, good idea to do this kind.
Actually, what madam is telling,
Yes,
before going to your real life wastewater,
yes,
did you conduct any study relating to your pure solutions? That means
yes,
say pure carbazole, pure
yes,
nitrophenol, pure phenolic compound, all these things you should have studied, and separately you should conduct a biodegradation study. But in my opinion, I do not know exactly, but I cannot say also. But in my opinion, it will be some kind of biotransformation, and some part it is a biosorptions, maybe biosorptions. So did you actually characteristics all these things when you are proposing some kind of inference? You should have been taken all into consideration what kind of mechanism is being taken place.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
so are you an engineer?
yes, sir.
So you have to also place the things in an engineering way. Of
Yes,
course, the science should be there. Science is the most important part here. But
yes,
also you have to see that whether it is feasible to provide in the real life system or not. Refinery wastewater is a very difficult task to treat it properly.
yes, sir. Yes,
Mostly there will be a lot of lots of unit operations. Not only the biological treatment. Biological treatment is a very 10% to 20%. Lot of physiochemical activities are there.
yes, sir.
There's a DAF is there, dissolved air flotation, normal gravity separator, API separator, stripping, all these things are there. Various type of stripping, reverse osmosis, dual media filter, many things are there. So you have to consider all these things and how, whether it is a possible for biodegrade all these compounds in a single reactor or not. Say SBR system, I do not know whether you know or not. SBR system, there are some bacteria which you can put it in terms of carbonaceous bacteria as well as nitrifying, denitrifying bacteria, and also phosphate accumulating bacteria. That also is possible in SBR, but a separate study should be conducted so that everything could be applied there. So that thing is very important.
Yes,
Okay.
sir, for this study, sir, meaning the focus was limited actually because for the time constraint and etc. So I could just do the experiments on this particular this compounds and this group of compounds that I
No,
presented.
whatever you are doing, that should
Yes,
be,
sir.
you take the your area of your focusing area little bit is closer, not
sir.
very wider. You just make it a narrow one. But
Right.
still you should do the all features. You should present all these features. You should explain all these features. Just like madam is telling that biotransformation or it is not biotransformation, it is a biodegradation. All these aspects at least you should have been done or should have been carried out. This is my opinion.
Yes, sir.
And any other person or any other presenter or attendant, anything to ask him, you they can ask. But before that, I should tell that the next presenter, I will call the next presenter to come and to present
Sir,
his
on
talk.
this,
Okay, we'll talk to you
Yes, sir.
later.
Okay,
Are you here in Kolkata or you are
No,
still
sir.
in Tiru?
No, sir, I am here in Tamil Nadu, sir.
Acha. So afterwards, you can contact us,
Okay, sir.
Sir,
Dr. Kaple.
Okay.
So next presenter, I should say that next presenter, he should come and to present.
okay, sir. Okay, sir. It is from the organizing section. We are requesting Srimati Shilpa Bose to present his presentation. His her paper number is AB 259. Srimati Shilpa Bose, are you here?
Silpa Basu, please come over here. Good afternoon, Natela.
Paper number.
Good afternoon, Natela, for joining here. Good afternoon, Natela.
Good day.
Good day. Hi. So you do have any paper here?
Sorry?
Do have
No, no,
do
no,
you
no,
have
no,
any
no.
paper here? Presentation?
No.
Okay,
Only-
okay, okay. Okay, please listen. Please listen. Please be attentive. Okay, okay. Very fine. Okay, now I request, I do not know, Dr. Silpa Basu to present here for her topics.
Shilpa Bose, you have joined and then you are lifting meeting.
Then next presenter, we can call the next presenter because it is an online mode.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
We
are
can call
going
the
for
next presenter.
Yes, sir. We are going for the next presenter. She is Shima Sukhani.
Sima?
Sima Sukhani from
Acha.
IISc Bangalore.
Okay.
Sukhani from IISc Bangalore.
Yes. Hello everyone. Can I share my
Please
screen
address
now?
your chair.
Okay, please. Mrs. Sukhani, I would just request you try to limit your presentation within 10 minutes, okay?
Okay. I'll do that, sir. Is my presentation visible to everyone?
No, I am not seeing any presentation right now. I do not know others.
The challenge, but we can't predict right now, like
Yes, now it is coming.
Hello?
only after the customers.
Yes, it is now coming.
Discussion, we can understand like whether it is doable or
Hello?
Yes, it is it is visible now.
I'm having trouble sharing the screen.
I was seeing your presentation,
We
but
actually
now,
saw
right
the
now, it has been
presentation,
off.
but then you turned it off again. Yeah, we can see your presentation.
Okay.
So just go to
So
full
You,
screen mode.
yes,
you go for hide. You just put the button of hide button.
I
Hide
think.
button.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, we can see. Go ahead.
Okay. So, hello everyone. I'm Seema Sukhani, and I'll be presenting on integrating wastewater management and ecological rehabilitation for tank restoration in urban areas. My study area has been Bangalore in Karnataka. So, what we have seen so far is that usually, whenever we talk about restoration of irrigation tank with wastewater, there are only two options which we have. One is the conventional STP with the biological nutrient remover model, where you need an effectively monitored STP and you need to remove the NNP. And usually, it also requires a cascading system of tanks where one water from one tank has to go into another tank, and this has to be really monitored and maintained. So, this model is specifically been designed for tanks which are sort of a little larger in area and have quite a depth. And such a model also has been implemented in one of the regions in Kolar, which also is one of the largest recycling projects of India. Another model which I'll be talking about today is how to have a standalone urban fringe tank restoration by using an on-site passive treatment plant. Here, when your requirements of aquatic biomass are very high and you don't have an STP or biological nutrient removal available, that's when we can also utilize this kind of model. Just to brief you about the first kind of model where you have an STP, even after the restoration from an STP effluent, the nitrogen and phosphorus content, or usually the nutrient contents in the tank itself, persist to be higher. So these are few of the tanks in all over India which has been restored with the STP water. What we believe are these six elements which usually are not taken care of in a tank restoration. So water resource being the one, we need to treat sewage because usually the runoff and catching is not as reliable as it used to be. Of course, civil construction and civil works is one of them, one of the major elements of the water resource restoration. But maintenance also is extremely important. Apart from that, the three other components which is often ignored are the ecosystem rehabilitation. So we talk about water and water being in the tank, but we never talk about how to bring the life back to the system by continuing the food chain of the system itself, how to incorporate citizens into the tank restoration, where people are supposed to be one of the major stakeholders because they are the ones apparently are going to take care of the maintenance as well as the restoration or the tank itself, and how to really have people having some sort of benefit from the tank restoration. So the valorization from the tank has to be also something which needs advertisement now. So mulching or biogas, fish production, boating, butterfly parks, there's few of these components which needs to be included. Additionally, what we also saw that there is no specific framework which exists which includes ecological restoration also to the value to the human in terms of how the water quality is. So suppose you have you have a tank where you can have water which is coming from the rainwater or rain catch off, then you can use it for drinking water purposes. But if you don't have that in available, then of course you have to go for the treated sewage. So this particular graph or this particular drawing towards your left side of the section shows you what kind of the A, B, C is the ecological value in the increasing order, and dot 012 is the human desirability or value to the human. So what we need to do is find ways in which A1, A2, and B2 can be achieved, where species richness and the ecological value of the tank is intact. At the same time, the human value, the human component where drinking water or irrigation quality of water can be achieved in the tank itself. This seems to be the more realistic approach, but because every tank cannot be brought back to how it used to be in the pristine condition where all the drinking water is available. So this kind of framework actually will be more realistic and also give us and enable us to find ways of reusing the water and reusing the citizens, bringing the citizen back into the restoration framework. So the study site which I'll be talking about today is Putanhalli, Yelahanka. This is in the northern side of Bangalore. It's about 10 hectares, 10.5 hectares, and it's a part of a valley. This particular lake is very famous because it comes under Karnataka Forest Department, and it is the only bird preserve of Bangalore city, and it is known for hosting about 7,000 birds during the breeding season, where a lot of migratory birds also come in. So our major requirement here was to have kind of fish or the kind of food which is required, which can sustain over a year, because of course birds will not realize that the sewage is there and they don't have a house. So you need to maintain a particular water quality, and also you need to maintain a particular kind of food amount. So the restoration efforts here included uh, restricting the entry of municipal sewage from all points. So we included a point source from at one place of the tank. So if you can look at my cursor, this was the system which was designed, and this whole thing was a diversion channel. So only from one point the sewage was allowed to enter, which was passively treated in this system. The data will be shown in the later slides, and was allowed to enter the lake. So this lake was completely full throughout the year, regardless of the rain patterns and regardless of the catchment water, which is catch-off water. And another one of the major points or major modification which was done to the lake itself was the change in the depth zone. So usually the tanks are ball shape or saucer shape, but in this particular case, we maintain the depths in a increasing order. So this was upstream. So from the shallow side, we slowly brought it back to the deeper end. So this was again one of the major modification which was being to the lake morphometry specifically. And additionally, of course, there were certain islands which were also created. The design which I just showed you, it's a 3-cell system, passive system of water. At a peak load capacity, it can treat 1 million liter every day. So this is the channel which I just showed you. And we designed an intake sluice which actually sort of maintain the FTL or the full tank level in the lake, and accordingly the volume would pass through the subsequent 3 reactors. The first was anaerobic reactor, anaerobic upwelling reactor. This basically works like a horizontal baffle where the water movement is being shown by the arrows. And after these 3 stages, the water goes into the deep zone of the tank. So now here, the major part of the design, what was done was, of course, anaerobic will take care of the BOD, and microaerophilic euglenoid will take care of some of the bacteria. And of course, nitrogen and phosphorus and microalgae reactor, as expected, will sort of pasteurize the water or reduce the bacterial load. But the important part was including the deep zone of the lake in the design itself, because the microalgae is specifically a food for the fish. So here we have to host about 7,000 birds. So we need to have that kind of algae mass also. Otherwise, how will we have food for the fishes or the birds? So the deep zone was actually acting as a sort of a passive raceway pond without any active components, obviously, where the algae grew, and that actually became a part of the food chain. So in terms of water quality, the assessment was made as shown in this particular drawing. So input, out anaerobic reactor, euglenoid reactor, chlorophycin reactor. The D1 component is the deep zone of the lake, and then 3 specific points for water quality were also assessed in terms of deep zone, medium, and shallow depth zone in the lake itself. So now we'll just come to the treatment part of it. So if you look at the anaerobic tank, which is the first major tank, as expected, we knew that the BOD and the COD level would reduce. So this particular study was conducted for 18 months. In the first 12 months, it was passively conducted, where seasonal variation were accounted for, and the water was only allowed to move for the compensation of the evaporation losses which were taking place. So suppose in July, if the requirement of the water was 0.5 mld or 6 mld, that much water was allowed in the lake. And in winters, of course, that will be lesser. So that is how it was created. And for the next 6 months of the cycle, the water was maintained constant at 0.5 mld, which brings about a HRT of 5 to 6 days. So as we had expected, the COD removal was increasing with increasing OLR, which is not very unknown for an anaerobic reactor. What was interesting was that regardless of the variation, we could remove 75% of the total BOD in the first tank itself. Here, I would like to reiterate the fact that it was completely passive. There is no moving part, and all of it is flowing by the gravity. And we could also find a very significant correlation between the increase in the volumetric load, as you can see on the top of the right side. As you increase the volumetric loading rate, your COD removal also increases, and that is a linear relationship, which was quite significant, is what we find. If we look at the total nutrient removal, see in the anaerobic reactor, as expected, the nitrogen and phosphorus removal was very low, and that happened only in the second and the third reactor, which was microaerophilic and the eugenoid reactor. So if you look at the months here, the total dissolved phosphorus and the ammonia reduction usually happens in the second and the third reactor. So the top one, the orange part, is the input, and the green line shows you the effluent from the anaerobic reactor. The purple is the second, which is the eugenoid reactor. The algal reactor is the boundary of the yellow one, and the blue is the deep zone in the lake. So as you can see that when there was variation in the water input itself, there was certain variations in the quality of the water in the deep zone. But the moment we had constant flow, it all actually stabilized, and your dissolved reactive phosphorus and the ammonia concentration in the lake were less than 1 ppm and less than 0.5 ppm respectively. So we realized by looking at this kind of data that if we feed this kind of a system with a constant flow of water and maintain it throughout the year, we can have extremely good results. Additionally, what we also saw was that when you had the steady state, which is the constant flow, most of the nitrogen and phosphorus could be recovered in food. So we also did TKN and TP studies where we filtered the sample and we tried to find out how much we could capture. So about 30 or 40% of the incoming nitrogen and about 40% of the incoming phosphorus could be captured as food in the algae in the deep zone, which was again a significant discovery because such kind of recoveries have not been seen before, and this initiated a very nice food chain. Another one of the major components or another major problem which we have been seeing is the foaming in the lakes. So to circumvent that, we also looked at if this kind of a system can take care of the surfactants. So now we have anaerobic system, we have an anaerobic system, and we have a partially aerobic or supersaturated oxygen system within the same. So we expected that some kind of new surfactant removal will happen, but to our surprise, the system actually could do a lot better. So about 80% of the surfactant removal after a lag of 5 months, that 5 months was specifically for the anaerobic zone, but after 5 months the system recovered, and actually over 80% of surfactant removal was seen in all months. Towards your right, what we have showed is if there was a significant relationship between the season and the surfactant removal as well, of course, if there is a dilution from the water, the surfactant levels will be lesser. So in the monsoon, as you can see, the input was also lower. But regardless of how the input and the output relationship are changing, your surfactant remains lesser than 1 mg per liter, specifically in the steady state. So that was again something which was surprising, but of course it is benefiting us as well. Now we look at the three zones which are already in the lake. So the deep, medium, and shallow zone. Once the water comes from the treatment plant, we also needed to understand how it is going to affect the quality of the tank water. So the three main parameters what we are looking at is hardness, pH, and DO, because that is what is more important for the fishes and the organisms which are going to survive inside. So what we saw was that most of them are in the permissible limit. Only in the beginning 1 or 2 months was when we found that the pH was the DO was a little low, which is between 2 to 3 itself. So it never went beyond 1 ppm or 0 ppm where we had to worry about it. And the hardness was also between 200 to 300 during the entire study period. Of course, we had to check for BOD as well, and what are the dissolved reactive or total phosphorus content in the lake water. So regardless of the location of the water taken, be it deep, medium, or shallow, at all times during the study period, the BOD of the water in the tank was less than 10, and hardness was also less than 250. Dissolved reactive phosphorus at all times was less than 1 mg per liter. And total phosphorus, of course, there is some amount of algae, but since it was already quenched by the fishes and the other organisms which are there, the TP was less than 2 ppm, and the total inorganic nitrogen was about 5 mg per liter because some amount of nitrogen content was still there. Um, uh, what was significant? Since I keep reiterating the fact that water quality is not the only factor which is should be considered for water restoration, the food chain is also important. So in this case, particularly, we also try to identify what kind of a food chain will there be if such a system exists. So we also made a list of all the primary producers, which were about
Ma'am,
19 or 20. Yeah.
excuse me, ma'am.
Yes. Yes.
You have only 1 minute to finish.
Yeah, I'm just concluding, sir. So, as I said, that with the incoming biomass of the primary producers, which was there, about 100 to 125 mg per liter, we could have about 4 sections of different trophic levels, which were identified in this particular system. And since such a redundant system exists, we were quite sure that even if we put this kind of a system in any other place, steady state operation can be achieved. So major outcomes of this study was that first we realized that this particular system can recover from a lot of shocks, and the system can be designed on site, and preferably if we put it in the deep end, our overall footprint of the system will reduce. And now we know that at a minimum, with regardless of different kind of perturbation which are going to be there, 60% of the functionality will be there. And if such a system has to be included, the performance at we can achieve about 85% performance at the steady state. We realized again that the system can be sustained with a minimum of environmental risk. So we recommend this kind of a cascade technology for a newly urbanizing area. Even if there is small scale wastewater treatment is required, the system can be easily used. With this, I would like to conclude my slides, and the floor is open for questions.
Seema,
Yes.
did you finish?
Yes. The floor
Okay.
is. I'm opening.
Okay,
it.
okay. So, can I request the attendant to ask few question to Dr. Seema? If some question to be asked, otherwise I would
Yeah.
ask
I
Dr.
have some
Kapli to ask
questions.
few questions.
Yeah.
Then I will ask one or two questions.
Seema,
Yes.
maybe you stop sharing your screen. It's just so complicated looking at such multiple things.
I have some throat
Yeah.
problem.
So, Seema,
Yeah.
very nice presentation.
Thank you.
And also, of course, a very important work. And you have shown very good application. Now, I just have a couple of questions.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
when you are taking it into your baffled zones,
Yes.
so then what about the sludge? How are you removing the sludge? I'm sure there will be sludge accumulation, right?
Yes. Yes. It is there. So what we have thought of it at this point is that in anaerobic system, usually the sludge comes from the carbon. So if you use an anaerobic system, most of the sludge is the percentage of the carbon which is going to be converted into.
Yeah, but see, you're diverting already the water
Yeah.
from the lake, which is a sewage contaminated water. I'm not talking of your digestion process. Anaerobic will generate lesser sludge,
Yes.
but your water itself will have all your, the
Okay.
suspended.
Okay. You are talking in the tank. What will we do with the sludge?
Yeah.
Okay. So what?
How often you need to take it out?
Okay. So that part of the work, honestly, we haven't really accomplished yet, because what I did was a year and a half study. In that particular time, I did check for the accumulation or the change in the bathymetric. I mean, I sort of used the bathymetry to see if there is a depth change. So it was very insignificant. So that particular data point we do not have yet, but we do believe in another 5 or 6 years, I think we need to remove some amount of sludge. That part of the work we have to continue doing, because 1.5 years
This
is
is
not
going to
enough.
act like a continuous flow reactor, right? Your
Yes, yes.
2-3 tanks.
Yeah.
So then, what is the holding time in your anaerobic chamber for this activity? Because if you're saying that biosurfactants are being degraded
Yeah.
there has to be some particular time, right?
Yeah. So we maintain for 0.5 ml, we are maintaining for a passive system about 5 to 6 days in the whole system. So 2 days for each tank.
But then what do you do when your sewage is incoming on a daily basis? How can
that's
you
why,
afford to hold
that's
it for so many days?
so there is a channel which is a diversion channel. So we only take through the input tank how much ever we need for the lake. Others is other volume is being diverted to the next lake and the next STP.
I see.
We are not treating the whole wastewater here. We are only using or treating on site what is required for that specific lake.
Okay, fine. Yeah, that's all from me.
Okay.
Acha, I have one or two question for Seema.
Yeah.
What was your flow control devices? You have said that some are diverted and some are taking as an input.
Yeah.
What this control rate? How
so
this control have been accomplished there in the site?
Okay, so what we had done is a rectangular weir with a sluice gate. So I used to control it manually every month. I used to change the volume.
No,
So
in that case, how you are measuring the discharge? You have no partial flume or any kind of other devices to measure the flow.
Sir,
Only wear will be not sufficient. Only wear will be not sufficient. Okay, hydraulically it should be compatible, na? Hydraulically it should be compatible to flow into different wears and to go into the anaerobic chamber. And second question, what was your depth of the anaerobic reactor or anaerobic chamber?
So the depth in the anaerobic reactor, the depth was variable. It ranged from 3.5 to 4.5 meters. So there was a slope at the bottom.
It was a trapezoidal shape or some kind of barn system is there in your reactor?
There is no valve, sir. It's a baffle
barn barn system in the slope side.
No, sir. The bottom.
You have said that it is a variable depth, and how this variable depth has been maintained? Just making some gradient.
Yes, sir. There was a gradient made, and the bottom was left open. So the particular the baffles which are there are actually only to make sure that there is no short circuiting, but they don't reach the bottom. The bottom is open. That is the part of the design. It is
a kind of a anaerobic lagoon, I think. Can you say anaerobic lagoon?
It is a very well modified version of anaerobic lagoon, because in lagoon you don't have baffles, you don't have sludge, you don't have variable controls, you don't have variable depths. Here everything is there, so that increased efficiency of the anaerobic system can be achieved.
Did you measure the pH?
Yes, of course I did, sir.
And what are the intermediates are going on there? Say acidification and all that. These phenomena, anaerobic phenomena. Did you study anything, any test, any kind of parameters tested?
I did try to do that, but the kind of feeding rate we had maintained, we never went.
Try or tried? We tried.
Yeah, because the feeding rate was maintained in such a way that we never went into the acidification of the lagoon or the anaerobic zone which we are talking about.
But how you can say then the anaerobic it is? When you are feeding and you are keeping some time as an hydraulic detention time, then there will be some kind of anaerobic reaction goes on there. Otherwise, you cannot say it is an anaerobic reactor.
Sir, anaerobic reaction is going on. I am saying the acidification of anaerobic reactor did not happen.
Then how you can say it is an anaerobic reaction then?
Sir, acidification means pH going less than 6, which is a failure of the reactor. So that condition never happened.
No. You see, acidification is the first initial step. Hydrolysis, and also because you see it contains lot of solid material. So there will be some hydrolysis. And then followed by some kind of intermediates formation. Like say, it may go with the alcohol formation. It may go some acidifications and other things. A lot of intermediates also will be formed. Yes. That study, did you perform it? Otherwise, how you can say that it is an anaerobic reactor?
I can say it's an
It may be facultative also. Partially facultative.
The intermediates for the anaerobic reactor were not checked, but there are other indicators, qualitative.
Now you could not check the gas production also.
Sir, please, if you let me speak, then I can defend myself. So,
yes, you speak. I am giving you opportunity to speak.
Sir, there are other qualitative indicators for checking if it's an anaerobic reactor or not, such as oxygen and redox potential. Actually, the redox potential is the correct indicator of an anaerobic reactor. So that was checked and maintained as well. It was always in negative 200 or 300 MB. And for your question, were the intermediates checked or acidification has happened? I'm sure it happened, but the intermediate were not tested. It was outside the scope of this study.
No, actually, you are assuming it is an anaerobic reactor, but all these parameters you have not checked. Is it not?
No, sir, it is not true, because if just because the intermediate, okay, Mr. Chanakya sir is raising his hand.
Okay, I will give you the opportunity to Chanakya Haisali. But before that, I would like to know from you that you have said that ecological parameter also you have tested. Plankton level you have checked. Plankton level.
Yes, we have checked.
That actually I have not got you from your presentation.
Sir, I can't present every data point which I have taken in one presentation. But we have tested for it. We have tested for the biomass of the total planktons, the kind of planktons which are there, and also the kind of abundance of the plankton species which is there.
And also all kind of planktons, but that means zooplankton and also the phytoplanktons, all these planktons.
Yes, we have tested for phytoplanktons and zooplanktons, and in the phytoplanktons we have identified 39 classes of planktons. In the zooplanktons we identified 13 classes of planktons.
Acha, did you calculate also this how much algae is produced and how much algae can be fed into these natural systems, so that the birds and other aboplankton systems or the pisciculture system can be properly achieved?
We have sort of calculated how much plankton production can take place in a system at a particular amount of volume and nutrients we feed. That is the number I gave you, 100 to 125 mg per liter for a 0.5 mLT system.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Chanakya sir, what is your question?
No, I was trying to answer that question what you have raised. It is anaerobic largely because you have gas production coming, and that is basically methane and carbon dioxide. As she said, once the redox potential goes to minus 200 millivolts, it can't be facultative. It can only be anaerobic. And also she has done something called the specific methanogenic assay test, which says when you add these typical methanogenic inputs like acetate or hydrogen and carbon dioxide, how much methane, how much activity comes. So that is high. So all these go out to say that the system is predominantly anaerobic. It has to be black, it is typically anaerobic. And lastly, most important, at a input level of 200 milligrams, 250 milligrams BOD, there's no way you can measure intermediate acids because it's too low for monitoring acids. So by the time the acid is produced, it is also quickly converted to gas. So that is the story of the anaerobic. And what
was the dissolved oxygen? Dissolved oxygen?
It's a sludge bed reactor. One side at the entry level, the depth is high. So when particles enter and start settling down into the bed, the sludge bed, the sludge becomes active and starts producing gas. And it, once again, the whole gas and the sludge goes up. It goes into an upwelling mode and mixes. So this is a naturally mixing reactor, which is normally not presented elsewhere. This is the first time in the world that such a reactor has been put to test and shown that it works.
No, in any such kind of reactor in the Benthal level, these things are happening. These things are happening. There are some gas formation, and the gas actually will mix the entire organic content along with the biomass, active biomass, and the entire things bioprocess are going on there. Any kind of this kind of ponds and legume, these things are happening. It's not, I'm not asking this question, this type of things. I am just asking that how you are ensuring the anaerobic condition there. And after anaerobic, there will be some aerobic, because otherwise you cannot discharge it properly because the dissolved oxygen concentration will be also lowered. So in that case, how you are maintaining this? This is actually my question, and that is why these things are coming.
It's very simple. The rate of diffusion of air from the top surface is far too low compared to the rate at which the bacteria will pick up oxygen. So the best way to identify whether your reactor is functioning under anaerobic condition is to look at redox potential. Any microbiologist who works on anaerobic digestion will know that.
I know, sir. Redox potential, when we are doing the sequential batch reactor, there also redox potential are measured.
So where is the doubt? I mean, see, we are not interested in collecting methane, and we are
No. I'm not talking about the methane collection. I'm talking about how this, when only your parameter is redox potential. But after that, when you are going for the aerobic zone, how the things will be changed, the character will be changed, and how these two things are being maintained there in natural system. That is actually my question.
Unlike designed reactors where we are normally comfortable, where we do an industrial based reactor, here we are allowing the system to function in a large bandwidth. So we are not controlling it. If you attempt to control, then there is no greatness on that reactor. Here, this is a passive reactor which works within a certain set of limits. And so that you don't need to operate this, you don't need any manual control, you don't need any physical control. It will continue to do its job. It is not designed to operate under optima. It is designed to operate under suboptimal level, but under the reliability and sustainability is given more emphasis than efficiency of space or any of these things.
You see, in our West Bengal, in Calcutta, in metropolitan Calcutta metropolitan area, there are a lot of Ramsar site that is actually basically wetland system. Lot of wetland systems are there.
Yes, sir.
Now
I worked with DAPA, don't worry.
So there actually, I think you will be familiar with this thing.
Yeah.
And then there also the similar kind of natural systems are there. The wastewater is treated naturally, and the treated wastewater also taken to the fish pond, and there also the fishes are being grown.
Okay.
And also some agricultural things.
I'll interrupt. I'll solve the problem. You see, what has been done here, the rate has been optimized. A 1 MLD treatment plant requires an area of 20 meters by 20 meters. That can't be done in the DAPA site. Here the loading rate can go up to typically 500 milligrams to 1 gram of BOD per cubic meter per day, as compared to the other traditional systems where it will be 50 grams or 40 grams. So we are driving the system to a higher level. We are, of course, copied the nature only. We are not doing something fantastic. All that we have done is we have made sure it works at a peak level and works sustainably.
Okay, thank you. So carry on. So I think I will see also, I will also be educated from you after that. And I would now request you, the next presenter, to present his topics. Who is the next presenter? Please present the, just calling, I'm requesting the next presenter to come over here and to present it.
I think probably we finished, no, because
no more presenter is there?
No, sir. From our side, there is no presenter we have observed.
Shilpa Basu was left actually. Did he join?
Yes,
Did she join? Shilpa Basu?
No. She has not joined.
Oh, I think all the papers have been actually, I think now presented. So no more paper is there.
No presenter as of now.
You just please check it, and then we can say, we can wrap it up now. We can also tell the summary of presentation, and then. Acha, regarding the first, can I request Madam Taple to summarize, because first presenter time, during the first presentation I was not fully there. Other presenting time I was there. So can you just make it the summary for the first presenter, and all other presenter, if you wish, you can also do it. Then I can also tell something on it.
okay. So thank you, Dr. Mukherjee. He actually disrupted the order a little bit because of screen sharing problem of the first presenter. So
We want to see the face of chairs.
okay.
Oh.
Okay.
I mean, because if you can make your camera on, all the members, then our secretariat can take a very good photo. Atya, please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So the first presenter was Swapna Vaini, and she spoke about the socio-economic impact of tribes on water quality, sanitation, and hygiene. Actually, we did not ask her questions. So then the column for question answer response is missing for her, because at that point of time it was decided. Hello, Professor Chanakya. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you.
So should we, take a little time and ask questions to Swapna Vaini if she's still around? Because that column will be missing then. Because we had no interaction with her. It was earlier decided that all questions will be taken up at the end. I have no idea whether she's there. So the thing is that she spoke about, she went and assessed water quality,
Not observing her in the meeting.
but it was just not clear how many tribes she took. She went to some remote areas and assessed the water quality. And so what was missing from her presentation was she did not let us know how many different tribes, how many different regions. Because if she has taken only one sampling point, where she has mentioned that since they were all, observing this open defecation kind of a system, the water quality was pretty bad. But then she also showed a lot of chlorides in the water. So is it, geogenic, or is it because of treatment of the water? That was not clear. And her health chart that was observed was actually not related to water quality, because the impact of health was more on diabetes. A large amount of that population had diabetes and high blood pressure. So, pathogens from or diarrhea, these kind of things were not covered. So diabetes and water quality, there is no actual direct link. Of course, everything is concerned with water that we take in, but there is no direct link. So if you're talking about the impact of water quality, you need to show, mainly say cases of diarrhea if you're looking at the health impacts. So these were the lacuna that I found in that presentation. But the presenter made good slides. She spoke very well. She was confident, and if she could just address this, it would have been a much better case, because her title itself says, Sri Kalukulam district. But I could not understand whether sampling was related to only one niche. So these are my observations. And Dr. Somnath, you were there from the next, so maybe you could give your brief about the other presenters.
The next presenter was Mrs. Dr. R. Munilakshmi. Actually, she presented on some kind of water quality monitoring, actually wastewater quality monitoring for some treatment plant situated in Tirumala. Now, her presentation, I have found some kind of lacuna and restrictions because no kind of control system was there. And second thing is that what the point from where she has taken the wastewater sample does not have any kind of characteristics features. That means whether it is a grab sample, continuous sample, or flow composite sample, nothing was there. And the statistical report, statistical control, statistical interpretations and computation was also absent. So that's why I thought that many limitations are there, and especially for presenting such kind of topics in an international seminar like this, I think it is not up to the mark. It is my observation. And she did not also told to the organizer or to us that regarding the deviation of some kind of standard deviations and other things for its quality, for her quality of the wastewater. And also she did not perform any kind of biological studies. So that is my observation for the second presentations. And also she did not use the latest standard set up by the pollution control agencies, pollution control board, CPCB.
1989. I was actually very shocked because anybody working with wastewater would have looked at what are the latest guidelines, and she was comparing her data to environment protection rules of 1989. 89. Can you believe it?
So that was her limitation of the study. And third presenter was Dr. Prosenjit Ghosh from NIT Tiruchirappalli, and basically the Prosenjit Ghosh actually made some studies on refinery wastewater treatment, particularly some of the features on some low biodegradable materials as well as some kind of recalcitrant materials taken from the refinery wastewater sample. There also some limitation is there, because you see whether it is the major things, that means major things means the process of biodegradation, the principle of the biodegradation, theoretical consideration of the biodegradation or research hypothesis not mentioned in her presentation. And second one is that there are so many pollutants are there in the refinery, not only for the phenolic derivatives or say other kind of aromatic compound, but oil is also there. That oil, how the oil to be degraded by the bacteria or some species, that is also not mentioned. So that thing, that study also, there are some limitation of his study. I think this should be also pointed out. And regarding the priority pollutants, whether a single species can do all kind of biodegradation, and even it is done, then how the biodegradation pathway, that is also not properly mentioned. So that is the question. That is the questionable study, or I think that it is not feasible, because one single species, it is my opinion, I am not very much expert about this thing, so I am not a biologist.
Kinetics have to be there. Unless you have degradation kinetics presented, you cannot say that this is a biodegradation process.
He has not presented any kind of kinetic parameters, like say an engineering parameter, say like say half velocity constant, or say rate of degradations and mu values, etc., or say inhibition constant. All these things have not, Halden coefficient, all these things have not mentioned actually. And he said only by 14 days of time everything is degraded. That is my question, because you see acclimatization time, acclimatization procedure have not clearly been presented there, and also vis-a-vis individual pathway of different kind of species, individual organic materials. So that was his limitation. I hope that in future he will carry out this thing. Otherwise the topic is a good one, because in the refinery, any refinery wastewater that contains all kind of these aromatic compounds, and it is very difficult to treat, no doubt about it, and if it can be treated biologically, it will be better. So I think there also, I also suggest him to see this thing, whether it is a transformations or bioadsorptions or biosorptions of these specific pollutants, or it is biodegradation pathway. Biodegradation pathway, ultimately it will come to the innocuous material. Either it will be gas plus some new biocell, or some water, if it is an aerobic mode, or say in anaerobic mode, whatever the mode may be, but ultimately it should be innocuous features. So that whether these things he has analyzed or not, in future I hope that he will carry out all these things. So that will be my observation of his presentation. And also I have some doubt about the separation procedure, instrumentation procedure, HPLC system or GC system, all this system, I have some kind of doubt, because I do not know actually exactly that how he has carried out all these things, and what was the condition of experiment, what type of column he has introduced, and what was the condition, and how it is separated from each other. Because in my opinion, this carbazole is not very much soluble. So how it is made to be soluble, that also I have certain doubt. And also from the sulfate extraction plant from the refinery, there are a lot of sulfural also coming. So how it is being tackled, because it is also very difficult to treat, and not only it is an inhibitory substance, and sometimes it is also very much toxic to the bacterial system. And these are the observation. Otherwise, the topic is a good one, and paper was a good one. And I think the last topic was presented by Mrs. or Miss, I do not know, whatever it may be, Dr. Seema Sukhani. Amongst all this presentation, I like this presentation very much, because you see it is a new approach. It's an ecological restoration. By deploying this ecological procedure or biological procedure, it is a good integrated system. But in her presentation, in the first slide, she has presented some kind of block diagram. The arrow has been not mentioned. Where from it is coming to this integrated plan, that she has not mentioned. The arrow diagram was missing, so that I could not understand that how the things are coming to the actual site. So that should be also included. I think I would request Mrs. Sukhani that in the future she should be careful about this thing, because otherwise you see that it is not understandable that how the things are being coming into the tank. So that should be there. And also I mentioned some of the features regarding the anaerobic condition and the flow control device, how the things have been diverted to the tank, and how it can be maintained, how you are checking all these things. I think Professor Chanakya has actually mentioned, he has given the answer on behalf of Seema, and also the anaerobicity of the reactor, and also the final ecological conditions, all these things he has presented. Overall the presentation is good, and also I appreciate her presentation. And I would also like to give the opportunity of the others, if they have any kind of questions, now they can also raise their hands and can ask the question. Wastewater is a very tricky issue, because wastewater does not always think that BOD, COD and only other some ammonia or nitrogen, but it contains many things, many toxicants and many kind of other parameters. You have to understand the biology. If it is a biological system, then you have to understand the biological pathway of breaking down these organics or other kind of materials. If it is inorganic also, inorganic ammonia also, how it can be broken down, that thing you have to be understood properly. And that is the very important thing. Biological treatment of wastewater is a very good topic. I think I have some interaction before Madam Kaple, Purohit, and this Rajiv Kumar and all that. And I was very much associated with NIRI for attending various seminars and various discussion. There I have found that they are doing lot of experiment, lot of scientific job. And we are basically teacher, and naturally we do not have such opportunity in our university to carry out such kind of entirely solely for that particular. But those who are actually working, I am talking, or I am addressing to the participants and all the others, especially the student, PhD scholar or post PhD scholars, that you should go through the fundamental aspect of this. Because the wastewater treatment can be done in various ways. Physiochemical treatment methods are there, chemical treatments are there, advanced treatments are there, biological treatments are there. Which treatment you will select, that depends on your target pollutants. And also you have to keep in your mind that ultimately nowadays you have to go for that treated wastewater to be reused. Treated water should be reused or recycled, or there will be some valorizations, and also the productivity. That approach, I think, have been tried by Dr. Seema Sukhani to some extent. So that's all from my side. I will now hand over to organizer, or any if Madam Kaple want to say anything or want to address something, she can do, or otherwise I am handing over to the organizer, thanking you very much for giving me the opportunity for presenting this, for chairing this session. A very good session. It is very absorbing session. And also, not only that, I am also giving my warm thanks to all the participants, along with Chanakya sir or Madam Kaple for chairing, for assisting me also, I should say, and the other participants also, and all the presenters. Okay, that's all from my side.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
can
Sir,
wrap it
actually, we are running out of time. So I would request the chairs if you can conclude by few minutes. Because
Yes,
we
please.
have
I
another
think we
session
can wrap
at
it up. Already concluding remarks have been given, so you can finish this.
Okay, ma'am.
You can close down this session now. I think I would request you to close down this session. I think that I am also I also convey my sincere thanks to everybody. Not only that, for warm regard for the next Xmas also. The Xmas is also coming. So very happy Xmas. You enjoy the Xmas, and then I do not know that during this lockdown period how much things are going on in Niri. Whether
No,
this
we are working
experiment
continuously.
and ISC Bangalore also, it is going on. Good, it is going on. Okay. In ISC Bangalore, one of my students is there, but he was in structural civil engineering department. She has passed out, I think. Orpita Bhattacharya. Asmita Bhattacharya.
Asmita, okay. I
Asmita.
heard the name, but I haven't interacted with her.
And Siva Pullaya is also there in soil mechanics.
He retired about 2 years
He retired. Shiv Kumar Babu?
Shiv Kumar Babu is there still. I retired this year, but I still have some projects with Shiv Kumar Babu.
Acha. And Majumdar is there. Majumdar, not there. Bengali Majumdar, Marathi Majumdar. Majumdar. He is there.
Yes, he's there.
My friend is there, Nagesh Kumar.
Yes,
D. Nagesh Kumar. You can talk. You can tell my name also.
Sure.
Okay, Nagesh Kumar. Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And now I would request organizer either to close, or if they can continue, but I am pushing off.
Thank you, sir, for your kind remarks. Now we are closing the session. I would like to request the participants to meet our next session at 15:15 p.m. of Indian Standard Time for technical session 10 on biomethanation.
The same link will work?
Kaple,
Yes,
madam?
sir, same link will work.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Madam Kaple?
I had difficulty.
How is Purohit, sir?
He is retired now.
He has retired also.
Yeah.
Tapan Chakraborty also.
Oh, long back.
Long back.
Yeah.
So only who is now active? Rajesh Kumar, Rajiv Kumar, your director.
No, he is now we have a new director, Dr. Atul Vaidya.
Oh, Ratul Vaidya. Not Atul Vaidya. Atul Vaidya. Another Vaidya was there in the solid waste management division.
That's him only.
Huh?
That is the same person. He was the head of solid waste.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll sign off because I have to come for the next session.
Okay, bye-bye.
Catching up with
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much. Bye, Charles.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So thanks.